Namo Bhagavate
Hello, I'm David Hughes. Welcome to Your Perfect Body, the podcast of the Esoteric Teaching Community. Today's selection is an essay entitled The Real Self. Our series on the second chapter of Bhagavad-gītā continues with the detailed study of the science of the soul given by Sri Kṛṣṇa himself. Before we can engage in spiritual life, we must know who we really are. The material body is just a temporary shell. The real self is the eternal soul. Evaham jatu nasam, tvam neme janadhipah, caiva bhavisyamah, sarve vayam atah param. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. Bhagavad-gītā 2:12. Krishna began teaching Arjuna in Bhagavad-gītā 2:11 by chastising him. You do not know anything. Still, you are talking as if you were a learned man. That is the symptom of a person without any spiritual knowledge. Almost everyone in this material world is without any spiritual knowledge. Still, they're proud of their learning, their knowledge, their degrees. They will talk on and on about all kinds of material subjects. But if you ask them to explain the difference between a living body and a dead body, or between matter and spirit, they cannot answer. They try to avoid the question by saying that it's not important, or they become angry. This is material consciousness, or spiritual ignorance. A really learned person does not behave like that. For example, when Sanatana Goswami, the ontological architect of this esoteric teaching, approached Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the incarnation of Krishna for the Kali Yuga, he first of all presented himself as a person without any knowledge. But was Sanatana Goswami really ignorant? Actually, he was born into a very aristocratic Brahmana family. He was a very learned scholar in Sanskrit and Urdu, and a cabinet minister of the king of Bengal. Still, he presented himself before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as a fool. He said, Nicha jati nicha sangi patita adhama, kuvishaya kupe padi gonainu janama. Apa nara hita hita kichui na jani, ramya vyavahare pandit tai satyamani. I was born in a low-class family, and my associates are all low-class men. I myself am fallen, and am the lowest of men. Indeed, I have passed my whole life fallen in the well of sinful materialism. The common men say that I am a very learned pandit, but I am such a rascal, I do not know what I am. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 20, 99, and 100. This is the proper way to approach a spiritual master teacher. Why? This is everyone's actual position. We do not know who or what we really are. If you ask any so-called learned scientist or professor, who are you? He'll answer, I am Dr. So-and-so, I am American, or I am Mexican, I am Indian, according to the bodily conception of life. This is ignorance. No one is this material body. We are all spirit souls. That is the first lesson of spiritual knowledge. As long as we identify with this body, that I am Mr. So-and-so, I am American, I am Indian, I am this, I am that, this is all ignorance. When you actually understand that you are not this body, Therefore you are not American, nor Indian, nor Mexican, but you are spirit soul. Then your spiritual education begins. In Sanskrit, this realization is called aham brahmasmi, I am spirit soul. Anything that is spiritual is actually part of the spiritual world, the kingdom of God. Therefore, the spirit soul has no real connection with this material world. When one fully understands this fact, that the spirit soul is completely different from this material world, then he's actually learned. This state of consciousness is called Brahma Bhuta. Brahma Bhuta prasannatma na sochati na kankshati samasavesu bhuteshu madbhaktim labhate param. One who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed toward every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. Bhagavad-gītā 1854. The symptom of Brahma Bhuta consciousness is prasannatma. As soon as one becomes self-realized, he is completely happy. As long as one identifies with this material body, he is unhappy, full of anxiety and misery, because this body is temporary and imperfect. But spirit is always Satchit Ananda Vigraha, eternal personality and form, full of consciousness and bliss. Brahma Samhita 5.1. So the spiritual teaching of Bhagavad-gītā begins with this point, that one should know that he is not this material body. That knowledge is lacking throughout the whole world. Everyone is identifying with this body like an animal. Therefore, Krishna chastised Arjuna in Bhagavad-gītā 2:11 that you have this animalistic concept of life and still you are speaking like a very learned scholar? No truly learned man laments on account of this body. It is said in the Bhagavad-gītā, Dehinosmin yata dehe komaram yovanam jara tata dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namuhyati. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Bhagavad-gītā 2:13. Dhiras tatra namuhyati. Dhira means one who has become sober by spiritual education and training. He is not disturbed and remains calm even when there is cause for jubilation or lamentation. Just like when a man dies, his relatives lament and cry, "My father is dead, my father is gone, my father is no more." But if one is a little sober, he can understand. He can contemplate that I am lamenting that my father is gone, but he's not gone. His body is lying on the bed or in the funeral casket. Then why am I saying he is gone? What is the contradiction? What is the meaning of this? This is an opportunity to understand the soul. If the relative is lamenting, crying, "My father is gone," that means he never knew his father. He knew the body only. But at the time of his father's death, he can understand that his father is not this body, that his father is really the soul. And when the soul departs from the body dies. Likewise, if we think of ourselves only as this body, then we do not really know ourselves. We are in ignorance because we mistake the material body for the self. This is the one cause of all of our suffering. As my friend Balaram so eloquently expressed in a conversation we had last night, they are afraid to lose what they do not have. We are all afraid of death, but death refers only to the material body. Since the material body is not really the self, then it is not ours, but the property of the Lord, the creator of the material world and everything in it. Since the material body is not ours, why are we afraid to lose it? We never possessed it in the first place. It is like a rented car or house. It was never ours in the first place. So why should we be upset to lose it? Why should we be afraid to lose what we do not have? Our spiritual knowledge begins when we come to the understanding that every one of us is a spirit soul. We may be in different kinds of bodies, but we are not this body. Now Krishna is describing the nature of the soul. Krishna describes all three types of persons as spiritual and eternal. In every language there are three persons, I, you, and he. First